I just saw that this morning, just right before the show. I died laughing. I thought that was like so creative.
It is creative. I love that. It's so weird too, because I was having a conversation with my friend Brian Richards, whom you know.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him in a
we,
long time.
Yeah. He was, I don't know, we just got into a conversation and somehow we both realized that we both like bluegrass.
I hate bluegrass.
That's funny. I like it. I love stringed instruments, and I play, guitar myself. So that's really where it comes from for me. And
my uncle plays guitar. He loves playing bluegrass. And my aunt hates I think it's like jazz. It's more for the performer than it is for the audience.
The thing is in order to play bluegrass, you got to be pretty talented. I mean, they're moving around that fretboard like crazy. Yeah. They're very talented musicians. So he sent me some bluegrass song that actually it was a bluegrass, and but it was a very happy song. It made me so joyful. And so the other day I was in the store, and this song, it was a Pink Floyd song, and it was I was recognizing the words, but it was being played to it was a bluegrass band that was playing
kind of like the video we did on mashup.
Just like it. It was just like
God.
That. I mean, it wasn't the original. It wasn't just like it, but it was Pink Floyd, a bluegrass band that was playing a Pink Floyd song, and they did a great job with it. It sounded the instrumental sounded great. The vocals wasn't the greatest part, but it's still pretty cool. That it was just interesting that you played that. I just saw that last night myself, so just really weird.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. I like the alternative with that, and it was so neat how David Lee Roth seemed to be dancing in a country style all of a sudden, but it was he wasn't, but it totally.
Well, the funny thing is the irony of that was like the most 80s video ever. Like he's all glammed up and acting all feminine. And it's this juxtaposed with this bluegrass hillbilly kind of stuff going on. And that old footage. Oh, God, I know, guys, if you're listening and you didn't actually see the video, they all of a sudden cut to this old video footage of a polka dance.
It looked like it was square dancing.
I don't know. Isn't that the same thing? I don't know. But it reminds me of when I was a kid. My parents, when my brother and I were kids, my parents and I would ship us off to my grandma and grandpa Edwards on occasion, and so that they could go out partying on the weekend. And so we'd stay the night on Saturday, and Sunday morning, they always watched this show called Polka Variety.
I watched that too. It was terrible.
Oh God, I wanted to jump out of my skin. I'm
terrible.
Like 8 years old and I'm already like, so in my ways, like I hated country, but the worst is polka.
Polka Variety. It was terrible. And have you ever heard Tejano music?
Never heard that word before.
Okay, so Tejano is very popular in the Mexican culture, and you hear it all the time, but it sounds just like polka. And except for there'll be like a Spanish language singer and everything, but it's polka music. That's what it is, and it's it kind of sounds like that, and
God.
boom, boom, boom. Boom.
I think I heard that the other day. There is a new Mexican restaurant here that they took over at Chipotle, and it's way better than so it's a Chipotle style, like that whole line. You build your own burrito or whatever, but it's so much better. Like I can't go to Chipotle anymore because of this place, and it's authentic Mexicans and that run it, and it's so good. But they play that music, and I swear to God, so I'm sitting there eating just like yesterday or the day before, and I was thinking to myself that this sounds like Mexican polka.
It is. It's
polka. What did you call it?
It's called Tejano. And and Barry, here's what's even crazier about it is that young in Mexican culture, young people love that music, and they'll be driving down the street with it, like it's like rap, like how people drive down the street with like rap music and it's like vibrating the whole car, and it's like, who does? That's what they're doing with this Tejano music.
Believe it.
Love it. And I'm like, and you should see them dance to this music. It's like wow,
what is it comparable? The dancing was it comparable to?
It's very like salsa kind of like, you know, and they can.
I used to take salsa dancing lessons.
I did too. Anne Marie and I took salsa.
It's difficult.
Salsa. We had like rumba, and we went to
difficult, isn't it?
Holy cow. It was really, really hard. And Anne Marie is sort of a natural at that. And I am not.
Same here.
And it's so embarrassing.
It is.
Especially being a black guy. I should.
Oh, right. Yeah. You should be moonwalking.
Yeah. That's what they're like. I thought you'd be able to do a lot better than this. It's just like so embarrassing. I'm going to turn in my black card.
It's so hard though. But I'll tell you what, when you get some of those moves down and, you can then hold your own on a common everyday dance floor doing regular dance because you got the basic moves, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so what I had this fantasy of was that, you know, Anne Marie and I would be at like some really cool swanky event, you know, and then all of a sudden like some of this music would come on and we'd be able to like either salsa dance or ballroom, because we were taking ballroom dance, like do
Very
like
difficult.
the tango or something like that.
Tango.
And we learned the tango, we learned the rumba, we learned the foxtrot, and
nice, man.
one other one. What's the one that you actually do with polka dancing? I forgot what it's called. Anyway, so we did all. I was terrible at all of them.
I would be too sure.
We did the
the
foxtrot in front of a whole crowd of people. Like it was this big event. We were all nervous for it and everything, but we did it to a really cool Frank Sinatra song.
Yeah,
and that's what I'd like to do. Is like we're at a wedding or something, and a song comes like on like that, and I can just grab Anne Marie and just go dancing and everything. But
I got a cool story like
didn't
that.
actually pan out that way.
Oh, okay. I thought
totally humiliating experience for me.
Gotcha. About 10 years ago, Lisa and I went to this big event. She's in NOIA, which is Northern Ohio Italian Association, and it's a really tight group of very successful Italians. And some years ago, they used to do big balls like during the holidays and stuff. And so we went to one of these about 10 years ago. Is some big fancy place downtown. I don't remember exactly where, but so after dinner, they start playing some semi-dance music, probably some Dean Martin or something, the kind of stuff where you could do some fancy dancing too, but nobody's going out on the dance floor. And I say to Lisa, come on, let's go do this. And she's like, self-conscious, like, come on, I don't know. No, everybody will be looking at us. I said, we'll make it safe for everybody else. And that's what we did. So we go up there, and if you know these basic moves, this is the point, then you can lead anybody. The other person, the girl, doesn't have to know how to dance. You could just, go side to side and now do this spin and come back to me. And, and so we just do that, doing some basic stuff. And then we made it safe for everybody else. All of a sudden the dance floor got, packed. So that's a cool thing to do. Go ahead and stick your neck out there.
Thing to do. Yeah. So I had an experience when I was working for this company called Emergent, and we had a big Christmas party, and it was down in Florida in a big hotel. And then after the meal, there was dancing. And like I said, I've never been a dancer, and I'm always very self-conscious about that whole thing.
Me too.
But I was feeling pretty good, and I decided
it's good to challenge yourself with that.
I had talked to Anne Marie about this because I was kind of nervous. I knew there was going to be dancing and everything. And like I said, Anne Marie's, she's good. Uh-huh. And she said, you know what, Merle, here's something that you can do. Like, just go out there and pretend you're doing something. Like, you could be like stirring the pot, or you could be like, you could do like, you could be sweeping, you could just pretend you're doing something like that. They'll never know that that's what you're doing. And they're going to love it. So that's what I did. I was like, everybody was like, come on, Merle, get out here and everything. And of course, I'm the tallest guy in the group.
Oh, I know.
So everyone can see me, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the Anne Marie thing. And since I'm coming here from California, I went out there and pretended I was surfing,
That's hilarious,
dude.
man.
They loved it. And they were like, go Merle, go Merle.
Oh my God.
Dude, the whole place went crazy. And I did a couple of fancy moves, you know, like I was playing hacky sack. You know?
Oh, that's so funny.
I was doing that.
That's so funny.
So then it was just like all night long, people were like, oh, that was great. That was great. So the next year we had this event again. And I wasn't feeling it. Like, I don't want to get up there and dance and everything. Yeah. So the dance started, and I'm like, I'm going to sneak outside at this hotel. I don't want to go out there. I'm not doing the thing that I did. All I know is the surfer move anyhow, you know, so it won't be original. And then somebody came running out there in a panic. Merle. The CEO's name was Michael. Michael's looking all over for you, and he wants you out on the dance floor because you're such a good dancer.
You know,
I got in my car and I went back to the hotel.
Oh, that's so funny. You gave some really good dance tips, though. I would just enhance that a bit and say you incorporate that. You can, you know, go slide back into the white man two step, you know, which is just rocking back and forth. Right, and that's all white people do. But then you go back. Then you slip into your surfing thing.
Into the surfer thing.
Yeah. You go back and forth. The people are going to think,
like, where did you get those moves? It's California thing.
I love Anne Marie's advice on that. Just think like great. Common chores. And
exactly. You know, that's it. You're washing the windows, you know.
Washing the windows. Do the Mr. Miyagi, you know.
Exactly. Wax on, wax off. Yeah. Right. All right. We're going over here now. That's priceless. They had like the Soul Train line where you got to dance down the line. That's all I did. I like surfed down the line.
That's so funny, man.
It was cool, man. It was a good time, but I just didn't feel it the next time I was there, and I escaped.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. So I got some renters coming in on Sunday, which is why I'm here, and frantically trying to do some between doing projects, client work, and then working on this thing for my mom, this big deal, which is going to be late. But I'm going to the Browns game on Sunday with my buddy Brian Hall, the electrical safety guy. I love that guy. So it's a second preseason game. Have no idea if starters are going to play or not. I would think a little bit.
Who are they
but
playing?
I can't wait. The Giants.
Oh, that's always cool.
Because they're practicing with them all week. And then they lead up to this exhibition game. So I mean,
exciting.
It's exciting just for the experience of it. But a preseason game, they have no game plan. They're just going through generic plays, you know. Right, so it is what it is. But I just I hope that the weather will be nice. Like I want to ride my bike down there.
Oh, that would be so cool. I love that kind of thing. You know, Scott was just this week. My brother Scott was at. He had a business function at the stadium that the Rams and the Chargers play in, which is a brand new stadium that we have here in Los Angeles.
Trying to think now, is it Los Angeles Rams or are they not Las Vegas Rams?
It's the Las Vegas Raiders, and now it's not only the Los Angeles Rams, but we also have the Los Angeles Chargers now.
And that's such a disservice because LA is not a football town anyway, and you got two teams.
Not at all. Yeah. I mean, it's more of a college football town. You know, they love their USC, UCLA, but as far as professional, it just doesn't even feel like a football town. But we have two teams. Whatever, we're huge. But he brought pictures of because they were in these various like the loges and everything. Holy cow, that's a beautiful stadium. I mean, state of the art. Scott told me they spent like some guy. No, I don't know. I don't remember now. It was like he might as well have said gigabillion. It's just billions of dollars on this stadium, and it is just state of the art. And apparently, it's got a sliding dome on it, so it can be either open sky or closed. Yeah,
but LA, what a waste of money because it's almost always beautiful.
What a waste! Exactly.
And here in Cleveland, we don't have a dome. But
yeah. Why do we have a dome? I didn't even think about that until just what are we doing with a dome?
It's ridiculous. But in Cleveland,
smog out.
We got this beautiful stadium right on the lake, and it's open in that end. And it's because we want the weather to come in. You want to see football played in the snow and in the rain. I love that, actually. I love that.
Because remember in Cleveland, they were talking about a dome, and we were all like, no, we don't want a dome with AstroTurf.
Yeah, what are you kidding?
We want mud and cold and sleet.
I love that.
Misery. Yeah.
That's the best football.
Get down in the mud and just as it's just about to freeze. Yeah.
Right. You're just watching them breathe, and it looks like a steam engine.
Like horses out there. Right?
Exactly. It's the best. That's the best football. I remember watching a game like maybe 20 years ago. You might remember this. It was so foggy that you could hardly see the players.
See. Right.
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing about Cleveland.
That.
I remember the Indians were playing that one game
with the bugs,
the midges. Yeah.
Yes.
Just like you can't even see them. There's too many bugs.
They're like
to Cleveland.
They're like spitting them out of their mouths.
Yeah, they're going all up your nose and everything.
Yeah.
This is disgusting. Thank God those things don't bite.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, they are disgusting.
They're
so squishy. Everywhere. They're just squishy.
Ew, they're everywhere. And then they die right away, and they're all piled up everywhere.
Yeah, you could sweep them up. Yeah.
I saw a documentary one time, and it was just some like island nation or African place where they live by the coast, and these midges like come just like that, where it's just like a cloud of bugs. And what they were doing was these kids would come out with these little nets that they could spin around, and they'd catch these bugs, and there like lots of them, and then they'd bring them back to the village, and they'd pack them up into patties, and they'd fry them up and eat them.
Well,
kids like smiling, and I got bugs all
little legs sticking out, a wing. I just saw this news story months ago. I guess it was last summer we had them, and a restaurant in Columbus was making kind of like this, like chocolate covered midges, stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I heard that.
Hey, if you're in North Korea, you'd be like, come on, midges.
Delicacy, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta say, I haven't been that hungry yet, but I've been in a place of hunger where I could see myself doing that if I had to.
Hey, let me ask you. So you took in more of that Yemeni Park podcast.
Yes.
What were some of the stuff that just jumped out at you? Like, how about the little boy that was so emaciated his organs were coming out?
That part was just awful, and just it sounded like she was really choked up while she was talking about it, because she realizes the severity of that now, but at the time she was so desensitized. That's what she was really talking about, that just seeing that didn't have any impact on her, but dogs were licking these organs that were coming out of this poor
flies.
Boy. Yeah. And because he was starving to death. Another thing I thought was really interesting was the story about how Kim Jong-un they have a story there of him and his father Kim Il-sung, and the story is very biblical. That Kim Il-sung is the father God, and Kim Jong-un is like Jesus. It's just like the Bible. Of course, nobody in North Korea is going to know that it has anything to do with the Bible, because if you have a Bible, you'll die. You're not allowed to have that. But she says so he is God to them. And we see that as the trend, is that in China, Xi Jinping is God. No one can question him. He's always right. And if you do, you'll disappear. And so
here in the United States, you could pretty much say Obama hit that status with a lot of people. Seriously.
It's interesting that you say that, because I remember when Obama was here, there was this, I would see crowds of people that seemed to have like a fanatical look on their face. I've seen films of, when Hitler would come by, they'd show the crowd and they'd be fanatical. Like they'd have a funny look in their eye, almost like they were enraptured. And I remember seeing that during the Obama administration. And I wonder if people like see that with Donald Trump. I didn't see that look. I saw some people with that, but it was I didn't see that look. I mean, I saw the huge crowds.
I will say this though, Merle. I would say those same people that were idolizing Obama so hard are probably the same ones that went straight into the TDS.
Oh yeah,
the derangement syndrome.
You're right about that. Interesting.
Because they already had this hypersensitive thing going on, and so it went completely the opposite way. Yeah. And unfortunately, but interesting. This is interesting. So I was talking to my mom in that treehouse there this weekend, and I was I read my notes. Actually, I happened to have my laptop right in my lap as we're talking, and I was telling her about. We just started getting on some world stuff, and I think she still just keeps CNN on all the time. That's pretty much her news, which is not now. There's almost nothing on CNN because they're not going to give any news reports that are anti-Biden, or anything like that. Right. And so I was telling her about, I was trying to describe what's going on with how poor our education system is today. And so I was telling her about Yeonmi Park and describing how she went from the horrifying stuff going on in North Korea that nobody knows about or talks about, to China, the horrors of China, but then got to South Korea to get a really good education. And this was the whole point Yeonmi Park is always trying to make, amongst many others, is to juxtapose South Korea, how they're at the peak of quality education. And then she comes to America to go to, our amazing universities here, and how just absolutely poor the education is now. And it's been a revelation. Like listening to Jordan Peterson's podcast over the last year is like, wow, I'm getting this education along with him. He used to be, just a few years back, he was a professor of psychology in the University of Toronto, and he's shocked. He's asking her, wait a minute, are you saying literally not one class was unaffected by this woke stuff? Not one class actually was good for you. And she thought for a while, and she goes very quietly, no, not one class. And she made the point on Rogan's podcast about the example of her music class that the professor asked, and I don't have my notes anymore in front of me. He has something like, do you think, do you have any appreciation for Western music, historically speaking, classical music or whatever? And everyone's like, no, it's horrible, like almost in unison, and she was, and then he went on to say that Beethoven and Mozart were basically white privilege, white supremacists that choked out minority music.
That was their goal when they were writing. They were writing the music. It was, I know, I'm gonna choke out some minority music with my music.
That's how you just illustrated how horribly ridiculous all this is. And I'm telling my mom this, and I'm saying, so because she said, how is this? And I said, because critical race theory is being pushed on everything in schools everywhere right now. She never heard of critical race theory. And so I'm telling her all about this. She's like, well, where is this going on? And I said, well, I couldn't remember the name of that county in Virginia. And
Fairfax.
No, it starts with a J.
Oh, okay.
Jocelyn, I think it is, something like that. I'm very close there. But, it's really, you can really find this everywhere. And
it is everywhere.
It is everywhere, except not on CNN.
Interesting.
There's little educational news going on.
How could she not know?
I know
that's happening.
And she said, I choose not to believe that. This is what I hear by leftists a lot when you actually give facts. And I don't mean to say that in a mean way about my mom. I love her. She's very intelligent.
But this isn't just your mom. This is happening to a great portion of our country. Right?
And it's usually older Americans that they've been raised on CNN. Just keep it on by habit and haven't noticed the shift over these years. It's gotten to the point in the last few years, it's gotten really bad, especially since I say this all the time. The day that Trump won the nomination, not the presidency, just the nomination for the Republican nomination. what's the radio station? NPR. Overnight changed, went way left overnight. And I couldn't, because I used to listen to it every time I got in my car up to that point.
I remember
it was like, whoa, what the heck happened here, man?
Right.
And
they exposed themselves. They were like that before. They just didn't feel safe to expose what they really were like.
Yeah. So what has been going on for a while now is the whole, like, older Americans, the baby boomer generation, still, like, they stopped. I mean, they kind of stopped everything in the tracks in like the late 80s or so, the 80s, where, okay, got my cable, got my CNN, and that's all I need. Now, this is what the world is. And what has happened over all these years, slowly, we got to the point slightly younger people, like and more so as you go down, get younger and younger, cut the cable, man. Nobody, listens to cable news anymore. And when you do, it's kind of horrifying how bad it is. You see it right away. But if you are still on cable and stuff, this is your reality.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think I guess my point is, it's very important for us to gently spread the awareness. I mean, gently, because as I was talking right here, I think it sounds terrible what I was saying and painting a picture of, my mother being deluded by CNN. I hate that.
But it's not your mom's fault that that's happening. It's what they did. It's almost like they pulled the carpet out from underneath of us and didn't tell us. And you kind of had to try to figure it out for yourself. And I totally get how this is happening to people. And then you take a look at, social media and what's happening there and how the algorithms and how they're driving us down into these echo chambers. And, we got that going on so that we can't talk to anybody else. We can't talk to, millennials are calling, baby boomers boomer, in a very derogatory term. And,
boomer.
Exactly. And so these mechanisms have served to separate us in a terrible disuniting. It's disuniting is what it is. Right. And the interesting thing is that we know that Marxists have a plan here for a long time in this country to tear it down, and to build up another utopian type of a society. But before they can do that, they've got to tear it down. And this has been something that's been ongoing. I've told you I'm reading that Kent State book right now. I'm about halfway through with it, and it's amazing. It was written in 1971, so only a year after the event, but it's amazing to me how similar things are that these activists were saying back then. They're saying the exact stuff about tearing down society, building it back up. They wanted to defund the police back then. They wanted to defund the military. They wanted to disarm police. They were very focused on white majority liberal, very focused on the plight of Black people and using that as a tool to leverage their cause. And it was very interesting how these activists were trying to use BUS at Kent State, Black United Students, which was an organization when we were there too, and how they were trying. It all started with a demonstration from BUS down at the Bell, in the Commons area. And at that night, on that Friday night, the crowd, there were activists in the crowd that were saying, come down to Water Street. There's going to be, we're going to start a riot down there. Well, when BUS found out about it, they were like, we don't want to be a part of that. And for the next 3 days, because that was on Friday, when the riot started, Saturday is when they burnt the ROTC building down. And then Monday is when the May 4th Kent State shooting happened. Black United Students, totally, they quarantined themselves. They didn't go down to Water Street. They didn't go down to the ROTC. You won't find them at all in the Kent State shooting. It's a very interesting thing that was being used. And we were indoctrinated into the students were innocent, and the big bad National Guard came in and shot everybody.
And this really let this always be a symbol of what can happen, with the national.
And that's exactly right. That's not what happened, though. That's
as you get through that book, I want to hear more about this, because it's an eye-opener. It really the students were supposedly so innocent, and they were anything but. Weren't they throwing bricks at
they were throwing bricks at the soldiers? They had organized themselves. I mean, they burnt down the ROTC building, and while they were burning it down, the fire department came to try to put it out, and they had machetes already to hack up the hoses, so they knew
that's an insurrection.
That's exactly right.
That's an insurrection.
And the fire men that tried to use the hose to put it out were beaten up by the crowd. And in fact, one of the fire chief was saying, as he was trying to pull the hose over there, that these Kent State women came to him and said, "No, leave the hose alone. Come up to our dorm, and we'll make it worth your while." I mean, this is just a sick event that was, and the fact is that there were all these outside forces, like, for instance, Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn from the Weathermen Underground. They were orchestrating this from the outside. They had their people in that were spurring these kids on. That they had infiltrated the whole group and everything. They were doing this. This was a plan. These college kids were used by organizations outside of them, much like we see where, George Soros is behind that, $1 billion. This is exactly what was happening at Kent State. Was this Marxist movement was adding the spark that lit the whole thing on fire. And then years later, you and I are there, 15 years later, you and I are on the campus, and they're telling us that exactly what you said. This is the lesson, and this is what happens when the federal government gets too big, and we've got to, watch out for this kind of stuff. So these very people that orchestrated this, many of them were professors, became a part of the faculty at Kent State. And so they re-engineered the whole story to indoctrinate you and I into the whole plan.
Okay. I like what you're saying. You're almost answering a question for me here. And the question was, so when I was telling my mother about critical race theory, and she never heard of it, and she's like, and she said to me, I choose not to believe that, because I can't believe that highly educated professors would be teaching their kids this stuff.
Absolutely.
And she said, how could that be? And I didn't have I don't have the most articulate answer, though I understand it, because her generation, when they were that age, when they were in college, they were all about socialism and Marxism.
That's exactly right.
And I mean, if you actually listen to, she pretty much tell you she's still very much into the socialist thing. And it's a slippery slope, because if you listen to me and the things I've said on this podcast, you'd say, this guy, if you're far right, you're going to say that dude's a socialist, because I do believe in this day and age, if we could get all this tax crap out of the way, the siphoning of tax dollars out of the middle class, and give it back to us, give us our power back, lessen our government considerably, I do believe then we should, because of how great we are at creating wealth in our capitalist society, that I do believe that nobody should go hungry and homeless and not have water. Your basic, I think there should be those basic minimums met. But I also believe from there, the only way that can happen is in a capitalist society where you incentivize to grow and spread your wings as far as you can.
And we've seen this, Barry. You're exactly right. Is that socialism / Marxism?
It's a slippery slope.
And ends up, it sounds good, feels good, but
then you're in communism.
Then all of a sudden you're Venezuela, right? Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing, I mentioned Bill Ayers from Weathermen Underground. These very same students at that time are the very same people that are in politics today.
Yeah.
Did you know it was Hillary Clinton? She wrote her master's thesis, and Bill Ayers helped her to write her master's thesis. Okay, so these people were very tied together. Bill Ayers is the guy who discovered Barack Obama. Barack Obama was given a speech at Bill Ayers' house when he was an activist, and
Chicago?
Bill Ayers, in Chicago, of course, that's where Bill Ayers is from, and that's where they discovered him, and they propped him up and got him in with other people, and he was constantly trying to, over his presidency, trying to downplay his relationship with Bill Ayers, and the press was very complicit on that. But this is what I'm saying. At Kent State, you had all the elements right there for some unknown reason. And it was really the movement at Kent. The reasoning was because they wanted it to be a place that could be any place in America, and not like these well-known places like Ohio State University. Well, that's Ohio State. No, they wanted to make it where average, common people, like the people that go to Kent State, this could happen in everyday America. And that's why they focused so much. That's why it was such a jewel to people like Bill Ayers. And it's so interesting when you start to look at what really happened there and how it relates to what's happening today. All of these people in politics today, the Schumers, the Bidens, the Pelosi's, they all are on that same track as these kids were back at Kent State in 1970.
And it's funny how wealthy they've gotten being on that track. Isn't that ironic?
That's the funniest part about it, is that what they learned from Marxism is that it's not one class, right? Like it's a class.
Oh, it's two classes.
It's two. It's the proletariat,
it's the elite,
and the bourgeoisie, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And here it's the elite, and then the soon-to-be peasants. Yeah,
that's exactly the subjects, right? Exactly. Wow. And I wanted to tell you, changing the subject.
Yeah.
Several episodes ago, you were talking about oatmeal milk as cream for my coffee. You were like,
no, not oatmeal. Almond milk.
Okay. So I remember you made fun of me and you said, you're going to say, ew, I don't like this.
I don't like that voice.
So I went out and I got oatmeal cream.
And I was like,
ew, I don't like this.
I don't think I would either.
I did not like it. However, last night
I said almond milk.
Okay, so I got it wrong. So get this. So 2 nights ago,
I don't like this.
I realized I said it just like I remember I was in my office. I don't like this. And I laughed.
You laughed at yourself, didn't you?
Yes. I can't wait to tell Barry this, and I forgot until now.
But you really did get something called oatmeal milk.
It's still in the refrigerator right now. It's like a cream. You should have seen it.
You got it
so
right.
It was like tar coming out of there.
You got it so wrong.
What the heck is Barry talking about?
And for the record, I'll say
castor oil.
What I like best is coconut milk. I mean, instead of the almond, it tastes so good. I always like coconut, and it's very, very little of a slight taste of coconut to it. But in my coffee, it's so good. But I do almond milk because it's supposed to be the best of the best. It's around there.
So I want to tell you what happened. So last night, 2 nights ago,
oatmeal cream.
I know, like how do they?
You got it so wrong.
I don't even know how they do it with almond. How do you make cream?
I saw this like video meme or something on Facebook a couple of years ago. It was so funny because they're making fun of what you're saying there, and they're showing these like almonds on this little production line, and they're hooking up these little tubes to them like they're milking the almonds. Yeah. I don't know, dude. They really crush them. They crush them and add water, and somehow it makes them milk. I don't know.
Well, here's what happened is that Anne-Marie and I have been liking this brand called Natural Bliss, and so it's like all natural, organic kind of
milk
cream for your coffee.
Okay,
and that's what we've been using.
So it's dairy
because it's all natural. Yeah. So we ran out, and it's like the next morning I'm not going to have cream for my coffee, and that kind of ruins my morning, right?
I know.
I got to have the right coffee.
I actually keep a backup of that powdered creamer.
I usually usually do too.
But I don't like it. But it's better than nothing.
But I can get by. Yeah. In a pinch, I'm okay with that too. But I didn't have that either. So I decided, I'm just going to walk up to the store and get some cream. So I walk up there, and of course, the one product I want, it's completely empty. And I'm like, oh, I hate that. Don't you? And so I'm like, look, but I'm like, this can't be. And I'm just looking, and then I see it. There's another. Oh, there it is in another little row right there. There's Natural Bliss vanilla. I grab it, and I walk back home, and I'm all proud of myself that I got to take it out of the bag. And I'm like, hey, that's funny. They changed the color of the label here, and I look at the label, and it's like almond. Crap. Now I'm gonna yell up the stairs, Anne Marie, I got almond instead of. She's like, well, I guess that's what we're gonna have to drink tomorrow. And okay, so I like it.
Oh my God,
it's really good.
Okay, it's a little roundabout of a story, but no, that's a great.
I got it in my coffee right now.
Now I told you
this is actually pretty good.
I'm glad to hear that. I
totally get used to this.
Well, and that's what I said. I said, do it for a month. Don't make a snap judgment, because what you're used to is what you're used to. Right. But you will see.
I got used to it immediately.
I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised, because give it another month or two, and then you'll find yourself somewhere getting milk in your coffee because that's what's there, and you'll be like, yeah,
I don't like this.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And I gotten to the point where I think of it, when I think of milk now, it's like it's animal excrement. It's bodily fluid.
Okay.
It's bodily fluid. It's gross, man.
It is. All right. I hear my dad. It's so funny you're saying this, because when I was a kid, I could drink milk like nobody's business, man. They'd get a gallon of milk, and the next day it'd be gone. Where the heck is the milk going?
Yeah.
And so my dad got this idea that he would try to discourage me from drinking milk, and he was constantly,
because he wanted it.
Yeah, because he didn't want it to all be gone all the time. That comes out of a cow's udder, right?
Right.
It's like a cow milk. Would you want to grow udders? Is that what you're trying? He would try all this.
Yeah.
It had no effect on me. Another thing was, because I ate him out of house and home, was he would try to tell me, you know how they slaughter that cow, right?
Yeah.
And then while I'm trying to eat a burger,
nothing would get in the way of you and your beef.
No, I was like, yeah, really? That's gross, Dad.
No, nothing's gonna get in the way of you and your beef. But there are some things that if you give too much thought to, can really gross you out, like eggs.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're right. And I always wonder who was the guy that ate the first egg. Like,
yeah.
Dude, you're gonna eat that? Okay. Or even like when you really look at a chicken, it's like, really, you're gonna eat that too? I mean, the whole bird is kind of weird. But I was at my brother-in-law's house, and he has chickens, and I was kind of surprised by these chickens. First thing, they're all walking around his yard, these chickens, scratching around and everything. And he goes, and they're kind of coming up to me, and he goes, you can pet them. I'm like, really? Pet a chicken?
Ooh.
And so I thought, I was kind of grossed out, like,
I'd be scared he'd peck me.
Yeah. Well, it was the softest, most cuddly thing. Really? And it was very friendly to me. And he says, not all of them are friendly. They all have their own personalities. And
now they have personalities. Great.
He did. Like, some of them are friendly and they want to come around, and it's pretty wild. The other thing that was interesting was that these chickens, they lay an egg every day.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, wait, I don't understand this. My brother-in-law's name is Dan. I'm like, how does a chicken lay an egg every day? I mean,
how does it form it?
Is it like, is there a rooster? Like, I didn't see any roosters in there. I mean, is there a rooster in the woods that just breaks into your hen house every night? Or how is this happening? He says, no, you don't need a rooster.
The rooster comes by and fertilizes it to make it into a live chick.
Right. That's exactly right. So these chickens, every day they lay an infertile egg. And so that, in fact, what I'm told is you would not want to eat a fertilized egg. That would be gross.
That would be really, really gross.
But when you think about it, he's got these chickens that are supplying eggs every day, and they like eggs. And so, I mean, it's pretty wild. Two other things about the chickens. One is anytime a big bird would fly overhead, they duck into that chicken coop. That's an instinct. They know to hide when like a big bird of prey
because they would over. Like a hawk would snatch.
It's gonna come down and the chicken hawk, remember Bugs Bunny?
I do. And the little chicken hawk.
They knew that. And then another time, Dan said, "Hey, you want to help me clean the chicken coop?" And I was like, "Sure." Wait, what? And so we went out there. And so he opened that up, and there's a thing at the bottom that you slide out, dude. I could not believe it was like there were like 10 German shepherds in there. I mean, what I saw down there was unfreaking believable. That was disgusting.
Wow.
It was, and it was huge. Like,
really?
Like there was a man.
Because I thought it'd be pellets.
No, it's like a gigantic,
gross,
like amazingly gigantic thing. And it stinks to
what do they
high
eat?
Hell.
Do they eat corn?
I mean, it's like some kind of feed that I guess there's.
Yeah, you're right. You imagine them running around on the ground, pecking at the ground,
and bugs and stuff like that. And so, but oh my God. And then that totally changed my whole thing about chickens. Like I was like, oh, they're cute and cuddly, and I hate chickens. I don't even know if I want to eat anymore. That changed after I left.
If I let my mind get away with me, I could convince myself to be a vegetarian.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There's just a lot in thinking about cows getting slaughtered and all that. But you know what? Joe Rogan, who's a big hunter, he puts a good perspective on it. He's like, he likes elk. He says it's the best protein meat for you. It's the cleanest meat, wild elk, best you can possibly do. And people that are anti-hunting and stuff, he goes, hey, I am giving them such a better death than they're going to get in the wild. They don't die of old age or a heart attack. Right. They get eaten. And when like bears eat something, they usually eat it alive. Like they don't kill it, then eat it. They're biting your leg off while you're alive and holding your head down and stuff. I mean, it's
providing a service.
In a sense. Yeah. Even a cow. Now, I won't eat veal because it's a baby cow. I just can't get past the thought. I cannot get past the thought. And some people, man, like you with beef, you could tell them all day long, you're eating a baby. They'll just sit there and eat it right in front of you and never bat an eye. Fine. I just can't do that. But a cow, I suppose, if you're on a natural, there's horrific, you could find some horrific footage of these farms that chickens are on top of each other.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Tyson, that brand Tyson's notorious.
Oh, remember we've seen terrible videos of this kind of stuff before. I read this book called Devil in the White City. This is a great book, by the way, and it's the center of the book is really two different things. It's set in the set. It's a true story set in Chicago in 1882, I believe it is, when the International World's Fair was there. Very, very prominent thing happened there because it was the first time it was ever in Chicago. It was normally in New York. But the one before that was when it was in Paris, and they rolled out the Eiffel Tower. So this had to be a really big deal in Chicago. And all those museums in Chicago down on the lakefront, those were built for that World's Fair. So that's a remnant from there. Anyway, so you got that. And then you have this America's first serial killer was inhabiting that whole thing, and he'd killed several women during that fair.
So he's like Jack the Ripper over there.
Yeah, he's exactly like Jack the Ripper. In fact, he was sort of mimicking Jack the Ripper in a way. And he was extremely charismatic, and he was a very good looking guy as well. And so he was able to go to the fair and get these women to swoon over him. And he had an apartment. He was a doctor also, and he had an apartment. God. right off of where the fair was, where he could bring these women and he would kill them. And then he would, his specialty was that he would strip all of the meat off of them and sell their skeletons to science.
Oh my God. That's horrific.
And he had like a big vat of acid where he would dissolve all the
Jack the Ripper meets Breaking Bad. Oh my God.
Yes. And we were talking about something just before that reminded me of something about that. But now that I said that story, I totally forgot.
I don't know. That was horrifying.
I was making a point though, and I totally
because we were talking about that killing animals and
so Chicago is a big meat industry, especially pork. And so they have these big, killing fields for pigs. And the book actually, at one point, this man takes his date to the pig place to see how these pigs are
you listening, butchered. Lisa? We're going to do a road trip and go do this.
Oh, and it was
squealing.
I quit bacon for a day.
For a day.
But it was, the picture that it makes is just awful. I don't know how you can work at a place like this.
Oh God, could you imagine? I've always thought about is a morgue. It's a total recession-proof industry, right? And but my God, to do that day in, day out, I know. God.
There's a fascination that I kind of have with the morgue. I don't know why. It's a weird thing. But I don't know. Sometimes I'll go into because I work with hospitals, and I'll go into a hospital and they'll say, we'll give you a little tour of the hospital. And then they'll say something like, you want to see the morgue? And then they'll, but I'm like, sure. they never take me down there.
Yeah, I guess I could sort of kind of the curiosity aspect understand that.
Maybe just one peek. Just give me a peek, and that should be enough.
Good. Touch it. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah. But, so you wonder what, apparently the funeral business is extremely lucrative for
sure.
Yeah.
So I just went to Irby's wake last week. Right. And boy, speaking to your point, everybody has this morbid fascination with seeing a corpse out there. That's everybody wants to see how the
embalming went
and what's the word for those guys that do that?
Yeah.
But how good of a job they did. And I always have thought it doesn't look like that person. I mean, when their soul's gone, their soul is gone. And that did not look like Irby at all. So
isn't that interesting?
But we have a morbid fascination with rating the guy's work. We do. Don't you think?
What do you mean?
Everybody wants to see. Oh, that looks.
Yeah. You're right.
Give their review.
Bill Cosby did a skit on this back in the 70s, where he's like, "You go to this funeral, and they went, didn't he look like himself?" That was the thing. It didn't look. I don't want to look like myself when I'm dead.
Yeah.
But you're right. I'll never forget. Like when I saw my father after he passed away. I mean, it was like, in a way, it was comforting, Barry, because when I saw him, I knew he wasn't there.
Yeah. Okay.
He had gone.
Okay.
Like the thing that made him had left and gone.
That's a fact. That's an undeniable fact.
Yep.
Now, do you think, they say that they do that for some sense of closure. Do you think that's valid? Or do you think it's just a morbid fascination? Because,
I personally think I wanted to see my father very badly after he passed away.
So it was
they wouldn't let me go to the place until they had him prepared. I would have gone immediately. My brother and my mom, when he passed away, they brought him into the room so they could see him. And my brother has a very dramatic story about seeing him. But I gotta say, deep inside of me, I wanted to be there too. I wasn't there at that time. I didn't get to see him until several days later. But I'm telling you that I remember as soon as we were available to go over and look at him, my brother and I got in the car and drove over it. And we had a special time, just he and I together with my father's body. And,
good.
And I remember being really nervous on the way over there. But as soon as I saw him, there was a lot of sadness, but there was a comfort, an instant comfort that came with knowing that I could see that he wasn't there. You know what I mean? It was just, it wasn't him that was about to go down into the ground. That gave me a lot of comfort, especially, my dad had just become a Christian only a couple of years before that. But before that, he had talked about having this nightmare about being in a casket and going down into the ground and his body decaying and worms eating them and stuff like that. And he would talk about this stuff all the time. It scared the crap out of me and Scott, actually. Like, I don't want worms to eat me. Yeah. They could eat you, but not me.
See, I got strong feelings about that. Now, I appreciate what you're saying about the closure aspect. The way you laid it out there, I understand it. I've never had that feeling. I think I'd prefer a closed casket because, man, for one, what that I want to say taxidermist, but that's what they do with animals. So, and they stuff animals, but whatever that embalming person is called, but to drain your blood, fill you with embalming stuff, sew your lips together, all of that stuff sounds like desecration of a corpse to me. It sounds really inhuman. Cruel. I don't know, maybe one day when we're on the other side, we'll have this awareness that wasn't really too cool to do that to a body. I don't know. I know I'm getting cremated. I think that's the most natural thing. And I want that to be done. And I don't want my corpse to be handled like that, even though I'm not there. But I understand your point. You got a good point about the closure part that you had. So
it was also interesting. My father had left specific instructions that he not be seen by the general public. So only his closest family was able to see him, but it was a closed casket for everybody else.
Interesting. What do you know why he felt that way?
It had to do with everything that you're talking about was dignity. He didn't want his body being seen by a whole bunch of people.
Display.
And he was also a person that was very controlling about everything. Yeah. And so he, even in death, wanted to be in control of what was going on.
Funny. Yeah. And to me, it seems like death is the ultimate liberating thing that'll ever happen.
I think about him and his how he had bad feet. And I'm telling you, if your feet are hurting, life is miserable for you. And I think about how he was an athlete, how he's running around. He doesn't have those bad feet anymore, because he's constantly complaining about his feet. And that's one thing. And he had the worst feet. I mean, when he took his shoes off, it was like, what the heck happened to you, man? I mean, apparently growing up, he could never have shoes that fit him. He was very poor, and he had huge feet. I mean, he wore a size 15 as an adult.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he had hammer toes. His toes were hammer toes, and he got big, like, callous knuckle toes and everything. And it was just and very sensitive. Like, if you walked past him, he'd pull his feet back real quick. Like, don't touch my feet,
Yeah. Oh, that would hurt. Like you stepped on his toe. Oh, God,
if you ever touched his toe, he made a big deal. Like, it was almost like if you accidentally nicked his toe a little bit, it was almost like the punter is trying to get a technical penalty, like
fall down. Pulls a LeBron James.
Yeah, exactly. Like 5 seconds later. Oh,
buddy, I hate to say
I know we got to wrap it up. Yeah, man. We could go all day, man.
We could. I'm in that mood too, where I really could. I have so much to do, though.
I do really too.
And I'm going to try to get this out as soon as possible because I got a lot going on. So be looking for it by to my time.
Sounds great.
11 yours.
All right,
dude. Hey, hope you have a great weekend, man. Love you.
You too, Barry. Love you too, man. Bye.